Okay, hello and welcome back to our discussion. This is Jason Kryzak, co-founder of Radiant Family Natural Health Clinic. And over the past few audios, we've been discussing the cosmic law of co-creation, or the law of attraction, in relationship to the Orgone Generators put forth by OrgoneGenerator.com. You can check it out there. But what we've been discussing fundamentally have been the breakdown of how the different elements of this law of attraction play out and how they can be fine-tuned, and what to look for in relationship to how we can delude ourselves into going down pathways that are actually not functionally using the law of attraction as it really is. So basically, in a nutshell, what we're going to be going over today is the foundational understanding of an adjunct to what we just covered. And what we just covered were the step-by-step basis on which the law of attraction is founded, and how we can deepen this process with something that isn't generally used in combination with the law of attraction, and that is astrology. Now, Carl Vels has put together a step-by-step program that Nick is actually selling with his Orgone Generators, which is a program about how to use the planetary configurations in relationship to the Orgone Generators and the radionics technology to empower the dynamics of how the law of attraction plays out. But to understand this, first we're going to speak about astrology in a very basic way. If we were to look at astrology, the study of how the planets move in relationship to the different houses, which are aspects of our lives, the whole thing is like a huge radionics generator. So radionics being action at a distance. So that which is creating a trend or facilitating a trend. And through that facilitation of the trend, we're starting to see a result in the target. The target being, with astrology, different aspects of our life are affected when the planets move in relationship to the houses and aspects to one another. I won't get into a lot of the technicalities because that's something that you can really delve into with some of the expert astrologers that will give you some resources to. But fundamentally, if we start to understand what our astrological composition is and how that's playing out, that's going to dramatically affect everything in relationship to what we're trying to co-create with life. Because this is not just a game of willpower. And we've spoken about that before. If it starts to become trying to will something instead of flowing with the dynamics of life and allowing what you're looking for to literally be uncovered, where it actually starts to come into your life, then what we get is a very short-lived, unsustainable effect. And it's never really satisfying. And it doesn't come down to anything that really has value for our lives. So, in understanding the composition of your astrological makeup, you can start to see the trends that are playing out in your own life. And based upon those trends that are playing out in your own life, you can see the generalities of what is available and what might be less available. So then when working with the Orgone Generators, you can actually get down to the basics of what astrological fundamental trends or compositions are you dealing with that are going to be the most in the way of achieving any given goal. Now, this isn't about outwitting the planets or outwitting trends that are destined in your life. It's about how you react and dance with the trends in your life. So you can start to use certain formats of these astrological compositions and accentuate others to change your relationship to how you see life and how you move with life. Because some things, as we can see, no matter what we do, no matter how much power or control we seem to have, they simply play out the way that they're going to play out. But what is very malleable is our relationship and our outlook and our attitude toward those things. So if we're in a difficult financial time, we can find the places in our astrological composition that will give reference to the trends that are basically creating those issues. And then we can start to work with the radionics, work with the trends that are fundamentally blocked. So again, it's not just about the end result of I want $1 million or I want to be so financially abundant that I can just travel the world and never worry about another thing. That might still come. In fact, that's happening all over the world on a pretty constant basis. But what's going to happen is we're going to look more at what is in the way, what is blocking, what is obstructing those elements of our life. And if that's based in a relationship with life that's dynamic and it's a circular relationship, then we're looking at a sustainable, functional act of co-creation with life. So not who's in my way and how can I get rid of them and what's in my way and I'll just barrel through, because then again we're going into service to self, and that becomes, once again, that catalyzes forces right back on us. So life becomes a struggle and it gets deeper and deeper. So that's not the model we're really wanting to look at or work with. We're wanting to look at how can I functionally work with life in a way that is going to maximize the potential where everybody wins. Because when everybody wins, ultimately what happens is a sustainable relationship and satisfaction. So in a win-win scenario, you might not have $1 million, but you'll be absolutely satisfied, and the finances that come in will be reciprocal in a circular basis. Your relationship to life will become richer and richer, and therefore the opportunities you're looking for will continue to proliferate more and more and more. We're not looking in a greedy way. We're simply looking at what is going to be sustainable. So, once again, going back to the astrological compositions, we're finding the areas in those compositions where certain trends may be obstructing what we're looking for. And then again, we're starting to focus on those sub-trends that might be blocking the ultimate goal. So financial freedom might be blocked by a set of oppositions or squares within the astrological composition that are on a foundational level. They might be health related. They might be unexpected expenses. We don't know. But these things will arise. They always do, in different forms. This is part of the great beauty of life. Of course, we can see that some people have it harder than others, and often if a person's listening to these videos, they might be going through a lot of difficulties. So we don't shun the fact that there are truly difficult periods of time where everything seems to be log jammed. So then we start looking at what is the log jam fundamentally, and in the subcategories of looking deeper into that process, you start picking out trends that will be much more successful to use with the radionics function. And so this is one of the beautiful features of these machines, is that you can actually look at sub-trends, meaning there's an overall astrological trend, and then you're going to find a lot of aspects and variations that are in subcategories playing out at the same time that are making the whole thing work. It's very complex. But again, when you speak to somebody who's really an authority on it, say with Vedic astrology, you can really get down to what is blocking your way. And then if charisma is needed, if health is needed, not that these machines are at all intended to treat, diagnose, or cure any disease whatsoever. That's not their function. But if you unveil patterns that are keeping you in an unhealthy pattern in your life, then you can start to move energy in a different way. You can start to express in a different way. It starts to open potentials up. You might even find medical treatment through your primary care physician that has not availed itself to you. There's a lot that can come forth, not based upon the device doing anything in and of itself to heal, but based upon that which is coming to your consciousness, that which you're starting to realize for yourself. That's just one example. The blockage also could be those people that I've kept around myself. So if I have a lot of people around myself who are not solution-based, perhaps they're negative, perhaps they're also struggling and working in an unsustainable way with life that tends to be a downward spiral, the energy it takes to continue to pull that tribe up will be astronomical. And that ultimately leads to a negation of what you're looking to achieve. So then the mind will tend to go back and say, well, the law of, see, this doesn't work. See, I gave it such a good shot, it doesn't work. But in reality, we weren't seeing those sub-trends that were functionally blocking the ultimate outcome that we were looking for, which was to have that free flow of purpose, which might play out as relationship, finance, it might be circumstantial, being something you've really had on your bucket list, something that's been a dream. This is the magic of life that we're speaking of. Not some cliche idea of what's going to make me happy. It's really learning to have a dynamic relationship with life, because astrology, astrological compositions are always changing. That's why life is always changing. Nothing is ever permanent. So we understand that. We see also, if we're going through difficulties, which we all have, and some of us might be going through difficulties even now, the difference we'll see between those who are successful and those who are not successful with challenges is that you'll find that those who have challenges, who have solution-based strategies, know how to find the sub-trends that are actually fundamentally not working, and then those aspects start to be worked with and changed. So the radionics function can then focus directly in on things that would be possibly, they wouldn't have availed themselves at all to your awareness. You wouldn't have thought twice about it as being an actual issue. That would be a direct thorn in the side of what you're trying to achieve. So you get down to it using astrology, you can actually empower everything we went over in the last talk about the how-to, the process. And then that continues to, like a juggernaut, take on its own momentum. And you find that at a certain point, the momentum of this cosmic law, it takes you to the destination. Because having to labor and work and toil to achieve something is ultimately the antithesis to the law of co-creation. This is about cooperation and relationship with life, where true understanding can start to foster itself in what we're seeing and how we're behaving. And then that relationship just continues to take on a life of its own. Challenges continue to arise as they are meant to in life, but then those challenges are met with intelligence. We're able to see deeper into the trends and use the power of the orgone energy being generated in relationship to the radionics. And one by one, we're starting to see a shift of perspective in different aspects of our life. Before we know it, that which we've looked for might just even show up unannounced, where it's suddenly, there it is, and it's a surprise to us. It might even be much better than what we were looking for. So ultimately, we shoot for a goal, but that goal is not something that we're fixating on, because as we've discussed, if we fixate on the goal alone, then we're missing the process. So the astrological side of the equation is to find the process and to really know the process. Not in such a heady intellectual way, but understanding the variations and the trends that are tending to play out in any given astrological cycle. Because our life is basically a set of cycles. And if we understand the depth of what those cycles are trying to teach us, then everything starts to become much more effortless, much more clear. We start to learn the lessons, we start to step up to what we need to do, and the Orgone Generators are a perfect adjunct to facilitating that at 10 times the level that you would be able to do alone. So some people might say, well, where's the challenge in that? If it's just going to be so empowered that things are just going to catalyze by themselves, almost magically, which is what we've been seeing. Well, I would say that it isn't about cheating our way through something. It's about allowing the intelligence of life to start to play out in your own life in a way that you didn't think was possible, not through some sort of a scam, but through facilitating the true vision of how something is working, understanding it, and then moving with intelligence within that system. It's just really simple. It's very basic. And then if we can see that, we stop doing the things, we stop behaving in a way that has been unsustainable, we stop associating with people that are bringing us down or subtly blocking the way. There's it's almost an urban legend that people talk about. If you make a wish, and we've all been through this. It's like if you're a kid, they say make a wish and blow out the candle on your birthday, but don't tell anybody your wish. Well, that has a lot to do with knowing those around you. Often, if we're trying to co-create with life, that means that we're having to step up. We're having to reorganize to a higher level of functionality and a different relationship with life. So if we're surrounded by people who don't necessarily want to step up, and it could be for any reason, because inertia is a big part of this. If we're spewing out what we want and how we're going to achieve it, subconsciously, those around us will tend to sabotage that, to work against it in very quiet ways. So keeping things to ourselves, allowing it to play out, and allowing the magic of life to start to become its own dynamic. You see, that way we're not just talking about things. We're not just speaking about what I'm going to do and how it's going to happen. We're finding the deeper trends in life. We're understanding them. We're using the generators to focus on those specific trends. And that is one of the quintessential points of how we facilitate a much greater response and result with the law of attraction. So I think I'll just leave it at that for now. We have a magnificent Vedic astrologer. He's been working with us for years. His name is Tom Garland. And look below the video. I'm going to go ahead and give his contact information. He is very much a wizard when it comes to understanding the deep and covert trends within the astrological functions of our own lives. And he can pick them out and he can point them out. Almost like my experience, it's almost like a psychic reading, because he's telling me things nobody else could have known, but things that I'm aware of, and some things I'm not aware of. And so finding those trends is magnificently potent. And then looking into some of this technology, these programs that Nick sells through OrgoneGenerator.com, dovetailing the two, understanding the functionality on that platform of having a read with Tom, perhaps, or if you have an astrologer, have a read with your astrologer, and then using the program to actually activate and work with the different aspects, even creating aspects that wouldn't be possible in nature, aspects of astrological compositions that wouldn't be possible, to empower certain trends significantly. So check it out, and you can always call Nick. He's a really fabulous resource, really nice guy. Speak to him about it. Check it out for yourself. Do your own investigation. So until next time, many blessings and good fortune.